The empty throne for over 3,000 years, the throne of Xerxia stood in silence. It was not made of gold or jewels, but of black stone and glowing silver veins that pulsed like a heart. It floated above a wide platform inside the crown hall, surrounded by giant alien statues. The throne was empty, and it had always been. They called it the throne of all worlds, because it could control the ancient crown, an artifact said to grant power over entire star systems. But the crown chose no one. Hundreds of alien kings and queens, warriors and scientists, leaders and liars, all had stepped forward to claim it. All had failed. Some said the crown had a soul. Others believed it was broken. A few believed it waited for someone worthy. But no one thought that someone would be human. In a distant part of the galaxy, far from the shining stars of Xerxia, a young man named Jay Carter was working under a broken space shuttle on Earth. He was 23, wore greasy gloves, and didn't believe in magic or aliens. His life was normal, a little boring maybe. He fixed engines and helped his grandmother run a small garage. Then the sky tore open. A silver beam shot down, surrounding Jay. He tried to run, but it was too fast. The world spun and everything went black. Jay woke up inside a glowing white chamber. The walls were smooth like glass, but with no doors, no windows. The air smelled like metal. Standing in front of him were three tall figures, definitely not human. Their skin was dark blue, their eyes pure white. They wore long robes, and a symbol of the crown glowed on their chests. "Do not be afraid," one of them said, their voice echoing in his mind, not through ears. "You are the final candidate." "Candidate for what?" Jay asked, confused and afraid. "The throne," said the alien. "You are the last one. If you fail, the crown will shut forever, and war will begin." Jay laughed. "I think you got the wrong guy." The ray. Aliens looked at each other. "We did not choose. The crown did." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, powerful alien leaders watched the human boy on giant screens. They sat inside a dark council chamber. 10 different species, some with wings, some with horns, some with skin like stone. They were angry. "A human?" hissed one of them. "A primitive, weak creature. The crown insults us. He won't pass the trials," another growled. "No one ever has." "But what if he does?" asked a quiet voice from the corner. "What if the crown has waited for something different?" Back inside the ship, Jay was taken to a large hall filled with old symbols, floating crystals, and strange machines. At the center, the crown hovered in midair, glowing with silver light, spinning slowly. It looked alive. Jay stepped closer. The air grew warmer. Something inside the crown pulsed like a heartbeat. It began to hum, a deep, low sound, like a whisper from the stars. The aliens gasped. The crown had never reacted to anyone before. "What's happening?" Jay asked, stepping back. "It is awakening," one of the aliens whispered. "You have triggered the first trial." "Trial?" Jay repeated. "What kind of trial?" The chamber began to shake. Light poured from the crown, surrounding Jay. His body lifted into the air, and the world around him faded to white. The screen inside the alien council room went black. "It has begun," one of the leaders said. "He won't survive," muttered another. But one of them, a tall, silent figure with silver eyes, smiled slightly. Perhaps that's why he might. In the white space, Jay opened his eyes. He was no longer inside the ship. He was standing on the surface of a red desert under a black sky. Stars moved too fast. Shadows shifted behind the rocks. Then, a voice echoed from nowhere. "To sit on the throne, you must face your truth, your pain, your past, and you must walk alone." Jay took a breath. He didn't understand what was going on, but deep inside, something told him this was real and he wasn't ready. The human who shouldn't be chosen, the universe had seen monsters. It had seen gods, but it had never seen Jay Carter, and it didn't like him. As his body floated inside the glowing trial chamber, thousands of alien eyes watched through ancient technology. Warlords, scholars, exiles, and rulers across the stars leaned closer. to their screens. They expected the human to die in minutes. What is he doing here? Spat Lord Vaktel, a four-eyed general from the Drakari Empire. He doesn't belong. He is soft, slow, emotional, hissed Queen Zarla of the Vari. This will end quickly. But the crown disagreed. Inside the trial space, Jay stood still in the middle of a twisting, shapeless world. The red desert from before had vanished. Now he was inside a city, not alien, but human. He blinked. What the hell? This is New York? Except it wasn't. The buildings were empty. The cars were frozen. A memory, maybe? Or a dream? A child ran past him, laughing. Jay turned. Mia, he whispered. Mia was his little sister. She had died 5 years ago. She was only 7. He ran after her, but the city bent and twisted. The sky cracked open and a voice thundered around him. Your first trial is not a battle. It is your past. If you lie, you break. If you run, you fall. Jay stood frozen. The city changed again. Now it was the hospital. The beeping machines, the sound of crying. He saw himself, younger, helpless. As doctors shook their heads, he dropped to his knees. This isn't fair, he said. This isn't power. This is pain. The voice replied, softer now. And yet this is what true rulers carry. Not swords, not crowns, but the weight of their own truth. Back in the council chamber, the alien leaders watched in silence. He sees his memories, said an ancient being called Ilantar, keeper of trial records. The trial of truth shows you your deepest wound. He'll crack, said Vaktel. They all do. No, whispered the silent silver-eyed figure again. He won't. Inside the trial, Jay saw more, his failures. The day he left his family, the day he broke someone's trust. The fear he never spoke about. Every moment he regretted. But instead of turning away, he stood there and watched. And slowly, the world around him began to break. But he did not. I can't change it, he said, to the air. But I won't pretend it didn't happen. It made me who I am. A sudden light burst from above. The sky cleared. The broken city turned to dust and floated upward like fireflies. The trial had ended. Jay fell to the chamber floor, gasping. Sweat covered his face. His hands trembled, but his eyes were strong. He had survived. Sirens rang in the Zerexian council chamber. Guardians in silver armor rushed in. The human has passed the first trial, one shouted. The crown recognizes him. The room exploded in shouting. Impossible. Unheard of. We must stop this now. No, one shouted louder than the rest. It was Lord Kael, a noble from the dying world of Ventor. The crown is law. If he passes all 3 trials, he will be the ruler. Queen Zarla's eyes burned with rage. Then we must make sure he doesn't. And with a silent nod from her, a spy in the shadows disappeared through the side door. Jay was taken to a resting chamber. It was quiet, soft lights above him. Strange machines scanned his mind but couldn't read much. He was human after all. His brain worked differently. One of the alien guardians stood beside him watching. She was tall, with armor shaped like crystal. Her name was Talzi, and she had served the crown for 400 years. You are different, she said calmly. Yeah, everyone keeps saying that, Jay replied, sitting up. But I don't feel different. I'm scared out of my mind. Good, Talzi said. Only the dangerous ones are never afraid. Jay chuckled. I guess that means I'm completely safe, huh? But Talzi didn't laugh. She looked at the door. They will try to kill you now. In a dark corner of the ship, a figure opened a hidden panel. Inside it was a small device. Old, forbidden, illegal. A trial bender. It could twist the next test into a death trap. No one would know. It would look like the crown rejected the human. Clean. Quiet. No blame. And so the figure pressed the switch. Back in the chamber, the crown pulsed again. Jay stood up, weak, but ready. "The second trial begins now," said the voice. He was surrounded by light again. His body vanished. His mind faded. But something was wrong this time. The lights glitched, sparks flew, alarms beeped deep inside the ship. And in the control room, Talzi looked up in horror. Someone has changed the next trial. The first trial, sacrifice. The Crown did not care who was watching. The trial chamber lit up like a dying star as Jay Carter's body vanished into the blinding white. Alien systems across the galaxy flickered and glitched. Even the Watchers, leaders of empires, creatures older than time, leaned forward in their seats. But something was wrong. The system readings were unstable. The ancient codes of the Crown had been altered, and no one but the traitor in the shadows knew why. Inside the trial, Jay landed hard on stone. He gasped and rolled to his knees, dirt and sand beneath his hands. This time, there were no illusions, no shifting memories. He was standing in the middle of a wide desert canyon under a red sky. But it wasn't empty. He saw smoke rising in the distance. Buildings, half burned, broken. A small village, maybe, or what was left of one. He heard a scream. Without thinking, Jay ran. When he reached the village ruins, he found chaos. Flames burst from shattered homes. Alien bodies lay still on the ground. One creature, a young alien girl with gray skin and golden eyes, was trapped under fallen stone, crying for help. Jay froze, and then the voice returned. Colder this time. "You stand at the edge of the second truth. Leadership is not built on knowledge. It is built on choice. You may lift the stone and save the child, but doing so will seal the path. You will be too late to complete the trial. If you walk away now, you will pass." Jay stared at the girl, then at the glowing path beyond her. It pulsed gently, like a doorway waiting to close. "This is a trick," Jay whispered. "No," the voice said. "This is leadership." In the Xerexian council hall, alarms flared. "The trial has changed," a guardian shouted. "This isn't the original pattern." Lord Kale stood. "Someone is interfering." Queen Zarla smiled behind her veil. "Perhaps the Crown wishes to test him further." "This is murder," Talzi growled. She turned to the High Guardian. "We must pull him out." "We can't," the High Guardian replied. "Not unless he fails, or dies." In the trial, Jay knelt beside the crying child. He touched her hand. She winced in pain, and tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked so scared, so small, just like Mia. He looked back at the path again, glowing, perfect, safe. "Damn it," Jay muttered, and started lifting the stone. His muscles screamed, blood dripped from his hands, heat burned his skin, but he didn't stop. "Almost there," he whispered. "You're okay. I got you." The path behind him flickered. Then, it vanished. Choice made. Jay lifted the child into his arms just as the canyon began to rumble. The trial was collapsing. He didn't know where to go. Suddenly, the flames around them stopped moving. Time froze. A tall, hooded figure stepped forward through the smoke. Their face was hidden in shadow, but their voice was soft and strange. "You failed the trial," the figure said. Jay stood straight. "No, I made a choice. You were supposed to walk away. The path was open." Jay looked down at the child in his arms. Then the path was wrong. The figure was silent for a moment. Then they lifted one hand. The crown appeared above them, glowing brighter than ever before. And it spoke in its own voice. Older than galaxies, deeper than death. He understands the burden. Let him walk forward. The world shattered like glass. Jay awoke back in the trial chamber, still holding the child. She looked up at him, no longer afraid. But something had changed. The crown floated above them. Its silver veins glowed with new color, blue and gold, the colors of life and sacrifice. Jay's trial had been bent by treachery. But he had passed anyway. The council chamber erupted in shouting. Impossible! The path was closed. He should have failed. He should have died. But the High Guardian raised his hand. The crown made its choice. The human walks forward. Queen Zarla's hands clenched. Her nails drew blood in her palm. He is more dangerous than we thought, she said quietly. We must move faster. She turned to the traitor standing behind her. The next trial is not his test. It will be ours. Later in a quiet chamber, Talsi stood beside Jay as he rested. He looked tired. More tired than any warrior she had ever seen. Why did you do it? She asked. Because, Jay paused. I saw her eyes, and I knew that walking away would kill something in me. You gave up your only way out. Maybe. Or maybe that was the way out. Talsi looked at him for a long moment. I served the throne for centuries. But no heir ever did what you did today. I'm not trying to be an heir, Jay said. Exactly, Talsi whispered, and that's why the crown may choose you. But deep in the shadows of the station, Queen Zarla's plan had already begun. She summoned a champion, not a warrior, not a scholar, but a false heir. The secret war of the galaxy held its breath. 2 trials, 2 victories. A human, born from a quiet planet with no empire, no warriors, and no crown, had passed what no alien heir ever could, but not everyone celebrated. In the dark corners of space, hidden behind silent moons and forgotten stars, something began to move. Not everyone wanted a king, and some would burn the galaxy before bowing to a human. Inside the royal command ship, Jay stood at a wide window staring into the stars. His reflection looked back, tired, bruised, confused. What if this is a mistake? He asked softly. Talsi stood beside him, arms crossed. If it is, she replied, you're the first mistake to make the crown glow. Meanwhile, far, away in the Xerexian underworld, a place beyond the throne's light, a message reached a prison made of black metal. He has passed the second trial. The cell door opened, steam hissed, chains rattled. From the shadows stepped a tall, pale creature wrapped in armor made from bone and smoke. His eyes were burning silver. His name was Korvac, and once long ago he was almost chosen. Almost. The crown gave me nothing, he growled, and now it bows to a child. He stepped forward and the guard stepped back. Release him, Queen Zarla's voice whispered from a hidden calm. We have a new trial, one we control. Back at the throne station, Jay prepared for the final trial. But something was wrong. Where's the guardian voice, he asked. It always announces the next challenge. The chamber was silent. Too silent. Then, without warning, the floor beneath him shifted, the walls opened wide, and in the center stood a platform with 2 paths. But this time, he wasn't alone. A figure stepped out of the shadows on the opposite side of the room, taller, stronger, armored in black and silver. Korvac. Jay stared. Who are you? Korvac smiled without warmth. I'm the correction. On the command deck, Talsi gasped. This isn't part of the true trial. But the screens had gone black. Even the crown's signals were blocked. Emergency override, a technician whispered. Someone has forced a dual challenge. This is illegal, the High Guardian roared. This is not tradition. Queen Zarla said nothing, because this was her tradition now, power by any means. In the chamber, Korvac stepped forward. You passed tests of mind and heart, he growled, but the galaxy isn't saved by feelings. He drew a weapon, half sword, half staff glowing with old fire. It is saved by strength. By force. Jay raised his hands. I didn't come here to fight. Then you came to die. The fight began like thunder. Korvac struck fast. Too fast. His strength was not natural. He was enhanced, shaped by science and rage. Jay dodged barely. Every hit shook the chamber. He tried to talk, to reason, but Korvac's anger drowned out everything. The crown chose me first, he shouted, but I refused to beg. And it left me. Across the galaxy, people watched hacked transmissions of the battle. On planets with no names, children watched silently. Soldiers paused their wars. Even the enemies of Zerexia turned toward their screens. They saw something strange. Jay didn't fight with hate. He defended. Blocked. Protected. Even when he had chances to strike, he stepped back. Korvac grew more furious with each second. "Why? Won't you fight me?" he roared. Jay's breath was heavy. His body ached. But his voice stayed calm. Because that's not what the crown is about. The throne doesn't need a killer. It needs someone who knows when not to kill. And then, something changed. The crown appeared above them both, brighter than ever before. It split in two, half floated toward Korvac, half toward Jay. But only Jay's piece glowed. Korvac reached out to touch his half, and it turned to ash, he screamed. Not in pain, but in despair. "No." Jay stepped forward, offering a hand, but Korvac vanished in a flash of smoke and light. The false air was gone. In the council chamber, silence followed. Even Queen Zarla said nothing. The High Guardian turned slowly to her. "You broke the law." She did not respond, but her eyes burned with something worse than rage. Fear. Because she had just lost her weapon, and the human still stood. Later, Talzi stood with Jay at the base of the Crown Hall. "You showed mercy to a killer," she said. "Was that weakness?" Jay looked at her. "I don't know, but I think it was right." Far away in the darkness between stars, Korvac floated inside a hidden vessel. His wounds were healing. His rage was not. A voice in the dark whispered to him, "You failed. But the real war is not over." A new shape stepped from the shadows. Half machine, half shadow. "He may win the throne," the voice said, "but he will never keep it." The crown's final trial. The crown was never just a seat of power. It was a gate. A test not of body or mind, but of soul. And now the gate was opening for the last time. Jay Carter stood alone, not on stone, not in a chamber, not in space. He stood in nothing. A vast emptiness surrounded him, endless dark with stars blinking far above like they were watching him. But this wasn't the void between galaxies. This was inside the crown itself. The voice returned. Not loud, not soft, just there. "You passed the trials of truth and sacrifice. Now you must face the trial of choice." Jay frowned. "Choice?" "Yes," the voice echoed. "But not your choice." Suddenly, 3 glowing figures appeared before him. They weren't aliens. They weren't gods. They were people. Ordinary, broken, and real. The first, an old woman in a cloak, eyes sharp, hands gentle. The second, a child, silent, face hidden behind a mask. The third, a warrior, bloodied, tired, kneeling in pain. The voice spoke again. "You may save only one. The others will vanish. This is not a test of kindness or power. This is a test of weight." Jay stared at them. "Who are they?" "They are futures. Each leads to a different galaxy. A different rule." Back in the throne chamber, Talzi and the Guardian stood around the crown, watching its glow twist and pulse in patterns no one understood. "He's inside the final decision matrix," the High Guardian whispered. "We can no longer help him." Talzi clenched her fists. "He helped us, without even knowing what we truly are." And somewhere else, far below the crown station, deep in its shadow systems, a new betrayal was being born. A cloaked figure stepped into the restricted archives. They inserted a black key into the mainframe. Files locked for 10,000 years came alive. The last failsafe. A secret the crown builders buried long ago. Meanwhile, inside the final trial, Jay stared at the 3 futures before him. He stepped toward the old woman. "What world do you bring?" She smiled. "Peace. Calm. A quiet rule. No blood, no glory, but no greatness." Jay stepped toward the child. "And you?" The child said nothing. But a vision bloomed around him, a galaxy of pure freedom, no leaders, no throne, only survival. Wild, chaotic, alive. Then Jay turned to the warrior. "What about you?" He raised his head slowly. "Strength, discipline, control. The Empire survives, but it's cold." Jay stood frozen. "How do you choose between peace, freedom, and survival?" Then he realized this wasn't a question of what he wanted. It was a question of what the galaxy needed. And the galaxy was broken, not just from war, but from the fear of war, not from rulers, but from being ruled badly. "None of you are enough," he said at last. The crown trembled, the stars blinked. "You must choose," the voice demanded. Jay looked up. "No. You will lose the throne. Then it was never mine to begin with." The voice fell silent. For a moment nothing moved. Then the crown exploded in light. Not in anger, but in awakening. Because for the first time, someone refused to take power for himself. He didn't want to be king. He wanted the galaxy to heal. Outside, alarms sounded in the station. The throne room began to change. Its walls folding into new shapes, light bursting through the ceiling, floating glyphs spinning in new directions. "He did it," Talsi whispered. "He passed?" "No," she said. "He changed the trial. But then, the shadows came. A ship, black, sharp, quiet, detached from the far side of the throne station. Queen Zarla's final weapon, Project End Seat. A war machine built not to claim the throne, but to destroy it, forever. Inside it stood a cloned heir, half Korvac, half machine, filled with code written in hate. "If we can't control the crown," Zarla had said, "we end it." Jay returned to the real world just as the platform shook beneath his feet. The crown floated before him, fully awake now, no longer a relic, but a living force. He reached for it. The crown pulsed, glowing in his palm. And just before it could, sealed to him, the alarm screamed, a voice rang out, "Weapon inbound. Impact in 60 seconds. Jay turned to Talsi. "We don't have time." "Then sit on the throne," she said. "Take control. Stop the attack." He looked down at the crown. Then he looked at the people around him, and he made a different choice. He didn't sit. He shared the crown. He placed it in the center of the hall and stepped back. "The throne doesn't belong to one person anymore," Jay said. "It belongs to the galaxy." A pulse of power spread from the crown, scanning every guardian, every watcher, every person nearby. They didn't kneel. They stood. With him. In the final moment, the warship entered the station's orbit, its weapon charged, but the crown fired. First, not a weapon, a signal, and across the stars thousands of worlds heard the same voice. "This is not the age of rulers. This is the age of choice." The warship froze, its systems failed. The clone inside it vanished. The weapon collapsed. Queen Zarla screamed in her chamber. Her time was over. And Jay? He turned to the people behind him. Aliens, machines, enemies. "Once divided, we don't need a king," he said quietly. "We need each other." The false heir returns for the first time in 3,000 years. The throne of Zyrexia had no ruler and no master. The crown had chosen to share its power, to be more than a symbol, to be a bridge. But peace is a fragile thing. And in the deepest corners of space, something broken was rebuilding itself. Far beyond known stars, past the edge of the void, a dead vessel drifted in darkness. Inside, the body of Korvac lay motionless, frozen by the crown's rejection. His armor was cracked, his mind shattered. But something inside him was still awake. A whisper, a voice not of the crown, but of something older. "They denied you. But we never did." A swarm of nanoshards crawled from the shadows, black as ink, smooth as glass. They entered his wounds, his eyes, his veins. Korvac opened his mouth and screamed. Back at the throne station, the galaxy's leaders gathered. Under one roof, Jay Carter stood at the edge of the crown hall, no longer alone. Not a king, not a warrior. Something new. A voice for unity. Representatives from over 60 species had come to join the first Galactic Circle, a new council to share decisions. No throne, no orders, only voices, equal. This is what the Crown wanted, Jay said. Not control, connection. But in a far corner, Talzi frowned. The shadows are moving, she whispered to a guardian. That night, the stars changed. One blinked out. Then another. Entire systems lost contact. Ships vanished. Satellites went silent. And in their place, black monoliths appeared, each one pulsing with a strange, corrupted signal. The Crown could not read them. On the screen, a message appeared. A single line. The Crown chose wrong. Meanwhile, in the ruins of the Void Station, Queen Zarla stood inside a control room, hands shaking. "Who sent that?" she barked. A technician turned. Pale, afraid. "He's alive." Zarla's blood ran cold. "No," she whispered. "He's not. We saw him fall." But then the screen lit up again, this time with an image. Korvac, his face twisted with wires and scars, part flesh, part machine. Not angry, not screaming, smiling. Jay met with the council the next morning. "Someone is trying to challenge the Crown again," one alien leader said. "They're using tech we've never seen. Entire colonies are going dark." Jay looked at the Crown. It floated quietly in the center of the chamber. "It's not just another challenger," he said. "This is personal." In a dark star system, Korvac stood at the head of a massive AZ black fleet. Ships without windows, weapons shaped like fangs, engines that whispered instead of roared. His voice boomed through every comlink across the galaxy. They gave the Crown to a human, but humans burn worlds for oil. They build unity on fear, peace on silence. I offer something else, evolution. His fleet attacked without warning. The first system fell in 6 minutes. The second never had time to scream, but he didn't just destroy. He rewrote. Cities rose again under black glass domes. Citizens reappeared, but no longer alive. Their eyes were silver. Their thoughts shared. "Welcome to the Hive of One," they whispered. "The future has a voice. And it speaks Korvac." Jay stared at the chaos. "He's creating a network," Talzi explained. "A mental machine link across thousands of minds. And he's using pieces of the Crown's rejected code." Jay's jaw tightened. "Then this is our fault." "No," she said. "This is his revenge." In the council hall, fear spread like fire. Some wanted to hide. Others demanded a new weapon. A few asked Jay to take full power, return the Crown to a single ruler. "It's faster," they said. "Cleaner." But Jay shook his head. "If we fight him the way he fights us, we become him. But peace has limits, because Korvac didn't come to win. He came to erase the Crown." The final message came from a hacked satellite orbiting Earth. It wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. "Bring the human to me," Korvac said, "or I will take his planet first." Jay stared at the screen. He didn't blink. "Then I'm going," he said, "alone." The human crowned. "Bring me the human." Korvac's voice echoed across the stars. "Or I will take his planet first." No army, no negotiation, no time. The galaxy watched as the final chapter began, not with a battle, but with a choice. Jay Carter stood before the Galactic Circle. He wasn't wearing armor. No crown, no throne behind him. Just a worn jacket and a tired look in his eyes. "He wants me," Jay said. "So I go." The council erupted in shouts. "You can't go alone. He'll kill you. This is a trap." But Talzi said nothing. She just watched him, and after a moment she nodded. "He's not going to fight Korvac," she said. "He's going to end him." The crown hovered before Jay in the throne chamber, not glowing, not pulsing. Silent. He stared at it. "I'm not here to take you," he whispered. "I'm asking for help." The crown didn't answer. It simply moved, slowly, quietly, into his chest. It didn't attach to his body. It fused with his heart. Earth. A quiet night. Empty skies. Then a tear in the sky split open above the Pacific. Korvac's warship descended, like a black storm. He didn't send drones. He didn't fire first. He landed. Alone. Waiting. Jay stepped through a glowing gate on the coast of Oregon. The ocean was calm, the wind cold. Korvac stood on the cliffs above, waiting like a shadow. Half machine, half something else now. "You came," Korvac said. "You knew I would. Are you here to fight?" Jay looked at him, and then said something no one expected. "No." Above them, the sky flickered. Ships from every corner of the galaxy were watching. Broadcasts, satellites, cloaked war fleets, all silent. A human and a fallen heir stood beneath a darkening sky. A final stand, but only one raised a weapon. Korvac lunged. Jay didn't move. He didn't raise a shield. He didn't block. He opened his arms. "I see you," he whispered. Korvac's blade stopped inches from Jay's chest. His body trembled. "Why won't you fight?" Jay's voice was calm, clear. "Because you're not the enemy. You were the first one the Crown almost chose. They feared your power. They turned you into a ghost. But I'm not afraid of you." Deep inside Korvac, the hive roared. Voices screamed. Thousands connected to him now. The machine core in his chest sparked. He couldn't stop shaking. "They took everything from me," he whispered. "Then take something back," Jay said. "Take your soul." Korvac stepped back, shaking. "I can't." "You can." In that moment, the crown appeared again, this time between them. But it was no longer just light or metal. It was truth. And it split again. One part for Korvac. One part for Jay. But something new happened. They didn't fuse. They merged, not into one king, but into two choices. The protector and the redeemed. In the sky, Korvac's fleet powered down. The black domes vanished. The infected minds were freed. One by one, voices returned to normal. The hive ended, not by war, but by letting go. Jay stood beside Korvac as the galaxy watched in silence. No crown on his head, no blood on his hands, only peace. Hard-earned, fragile, real. The Galactic Circle voted a week later. The throne would remain empty. The crown would become a living network, shared among species, no longer held by one. Jay refused any title. Korvac, now healed but scarred, asked for only one thing: "Let me rebuild what I destroyed." And Jay nodded. Months passed. The galaxy changed. New alliances formed. Old hatreds died slowly, but they died. And on a quiet morning on Earth, Jay walked along the coast again. The same cliff, the same wind, but no warships in the sky. Just peace. He sat down, pulled out a small device, recorded a message. "This is Jay Carter, no titles. Just a guy who answered a question nobody asked him. The crown didn't choose me because I was strong. It chose me because I didn't want to be chosen." He smiled a little, and that was enough. In the depths of space, a small child, alien, wide-eyed, hears the message. Turns to their mother. "Can humans really lead the galaxy?" The mother smiles. "No, but they can remind it how to heal." The end.